developing leaders and acting on important issues for over 10 years. I know Carol as a woman of intelligence and grace whose leadership talents have greatly benefited our city. Carol is especially skilled at empowering others to become leaders. Recently, she and her fiance purchased their first home, and they'll be married by Todd in May. The title of her sermon is Relational Meetings, Acts of Social Justice. Carol.
Good morning. And again, thank you so much. So beautiful. I got to hear it twice. The Spokane Alliance is a local nonprofit and nonpartisan organization whose purpose is to develop leaders and organize through them their institutions for social justice. The Unitarian Church is a key member of this organization. My goal this morning is to give you a better sense of the Spokane Alliance and lay out a cornerstone of our work, relational meetings, the key tool that helps us act on our values and create social justice. Thank you for inviting me to speak this morning. Many of you probably think of organizing as the work about bringing about a more just society, and it is. But it's also about something more profound and spiritual. Making the world a better place, not just and about through issue campaigns. Organizing is also about creating a space for people to understand themselves, to act on their hopes and their fears, engaging them in public life, and building relationships with people that aren't just like you. This is transformational. How do we in our institutions make our values more pronounced in the world? How do we think about our lives together in society? How do we push society to change? Good organizing gets us thinking more deeply about ourselves, our institutions, and the world that we want to live in. Organizing pushes us to change along with society. The most fundamental and radical thing we do as a part of our culture inside the Spokane Alliance are relational meetings. The purpose of a relational meeting is to initiate a relationship with another person and explore their motivations, where you understand each other, connect, and figure out what makes that person tick. What do they care most about, and why do they care about it? By doing relational meetings, we change other people and also change ourselves. Here's an example of a recent experience I had with a relational meeting. A student sat in my class. She always gave off a vibe of, I'm listening, I'm absorbing, I'm also testing to see if this and you are real. I called her up to see if she'd do a relational meeting with me. She agreed. When I asked her to meet, I saw a little sparkle flash in her eye that I had not yet seen. We met for about 25-30 minutes. I asked her why she's in the program she's in. I asked her where she gets her motivation from, what she wants to do with it. I also asked her about that edge I felt from her in class. I took a calculated risk and asked, where does that come from? She had a clear answer. She said, I'm Mexican American. I'm the first person in my family to go to college. I'm going against the grain of my family. They expect me to be married with kids, but I want to further my education and do something that matters in the world. I asked her if there was one thing you could focus on right now that would give you meaning, what would it be? She said, I'm angered by the lack of diversity on campus and want to create opportunities for minorities to further their education. I shared with her a bit about me. I told her that in my last year of college, I was really frustrated and I was having a hard time finding true meaning and joy in life. My day-to-day activities made me angry at society and ultimately depressed. I didn't feel like people really cared. It wasn't until I started working as an assistant to an art therapist, my world became bigger. We were working with people that were coming to a soup kitchen that needed an outlet. This experience changed the track of my life. My student was surprised. We began to build some trust. This exchange was a part of a relational meeting. It was profound. I had no idea that that is what she was interested in and where that interest came from. It took 30 minutes of an intentional conversation to get there. Since then, we've brainstormed together on how she can best act on her passions. That first sparkle I saw in her eye, I realized was recognition, being seen. Not many people, classmates, or professors knew her story, her motivations, or her hopes. Being known in this way as a whole person is quite powerful. Good relational meetings slow me down. They get me out of my head and bring me into a more worldly and personally unique perspective. I become more attentive to the richness of people's lives, the possibilities in acting on what's most important to each of us. Relational meetings get me to pay attention to what's around me in a more meaningful way. I see people with an open mind. I've trained myself to suspend judgment and know all people have a story that's worth hearing. I see relational meetings as religious acts. Relational meetings have changed me. Not only have I learned about so many other people, built deep, great, wonderful public relationships, I've helped others act on what they care about, but I have also grown and stretched myself in the process. A recent conversation really stirred me. I had a relational meeting with a colleague from Washington, D.C. He asked me a powerful question about my family, faith, and my upcoming wedding. No one had been that curious and direct with me, especially about my faith. His questions, our conversation, challenged me in a healthy way. The agitation he mustered provoked me. It got me moving on an interest of mine that I hadn't yet faced. When I returned to Spokane, I was motivated to face part of me that I hadn't in a while, but that needed my attention. I became inspired and set myself on a trajectory of meeting with clergy about faith and their journey. I started asking questions I had never allowed myself to ask church leaders before. I began to feel comfortable in a place where I had never felt comfortable. This has enriched my life. A relational meeting stirred me enough to encourage me to change and grow myself. Good relational meetings can do that. Spokane Alliance's purpose is to continually be developing a broad-based, civic-led, powerful organization that develops leaders and organizes for social justice. Organizations are members. You, the Spokane Unitarian Universalist Church, is a member. The Spokane Education Association, the Firefighters Local Union, St. Anne's Catholic Church, SEIU unions that represent home health care workers, nurses, and custodians, Westminster United Church of Christ, a health equity-focused student group on WSU campus, among many others, are all members. We are an organization-based nonprofit because there is the potential to work with hundreds of more people this way. We organize organizations because these institutions, faith, unions, and civic organizations, are key institutions in our community that help form the way that people engage with and interpret life. They are foundational to the development of people and hold values that are important to the rest of society. But many of them are also at risk of losing membership and/or dues, or have lost the relevancy they once held in society. Through organizing, we believe that we can rebuild them and also build new organizations that can play a similar role. I've been the organizer for the Spokane Alliance for the past 4 years. I moved here from Baltimore, Maryland, where I was organizing with an affiliated organization to Spokane Alliance. We are a part of a large worldwide network called the IAF, or Industrial Areas Foundation. Saul Alinsky created the IAF in the 1940s in the backyards of both Kodak and a large meat packing plant. Hence, so big industry in Chicago, hence the name Industrial Areas Foundation.